Greetings brethren, Houseburger Donkey here, and this is my I'm a Wargamer video in response to Chilling Wargamers and Culloden Painting Studios, Rudy, who has called me out to do this. I'm gonna immediately give off my like the three channels that I'm nominating because otherwise I'll forget by the end of the video again. This is the second attempt at this. So the first channel that I want to nominate is Helcarex26. I really like what he does. He works on a lot of Battletech and dystopian wars and Man-O-War and just all sorts of cool older games that are just interesting. Also, he has an American War of Independence project going, which is one of my favorite periods. So always really enjoy watching him, and I would love to hear what he has to say for this. Secondly, then there is Brush&Quill. Lovely guy who has been commenting so much on my videos, especially while I was out with my back injury, and I still haven't been able to get back to him with all the comments. So yeah, I would love to hear from him as well. And then thirdly, there is Basement 1908 exclamation mark, I think. He has a great channel. He does mainly Napoleonics, and he has a really large French and British Napoleonic collection. And he does great battle reports where he takes these amazing panoramic shots of the battlefield. It just looks great, and it's really inspiring. And I gotta admit, I'm not massively drawn to Napoleonics usually, but his channel almost makes me want to get into it. It's great, really. You should check it out. And I definitely want to hear from him as well, because I don't think he did this last year. He only has 100-something subscribers, so I think he's also pretty new. And yeah, would like to hear what they have to say to this. All right, let's get to the questions. How did I get into the hobby? Well, I was born in 1985, so I think for my generation, and especially in Germany, I think it's a very, very standard sort of progression into the hobby. I liked role-playing games and fantasy. I was a big fan of the Hobbit books. I think I read that when I was 6, 7, I think, which is about appropriate, I think, for an age range to read the Hobbit. I then later on went on to read Lord of the Rings, of course, and just fantasy was I loved it. And one day, this is actually an interesting anecdote. I actually found 100 Deutsche Mark, back then it still was, just on the road in front of my house. Belonged to nobody. My mom insisted to sort of ask the neighbors if anyone lost anything, without saying, hey, there was a bunch of money, is it yours? And nobody turned up saying that they'd lost anything, so I went ahead and used that and bought my first own purchase, and I bought Hero Quest. And I loved that game so much. I tried really hard to get all my friends into it, and I brought it with me to school trips and all this sort of thing. I thought it was a wonderful game, and it kept sort of it was sort of a 2-track thing for me. Me and my cousin, we really liked playing board games such as Hero Quest, and we would look at, because that was a time when a lot of these board games came out, these sort of Games Workshop collaboration board games, but also the German alternatives came out in that time. So the Dark Eye board games, there's quite a few of those. And we sort of went back and forth for Christmas and birthdays. We'd ask for these board games when they came out. And so we played Space Crusade and Battle, I think it's called Battle Masters in English. It's that big board game with the vinyl mat that you put on the ground, and you have these big bases on the hex board. That was a great game. And I'm pretty sure that was probably the game that then sort of inspired me to get into wargaming, and also sorts of other ones. Warhammer Quest, which is probably the one I regret not having anymore the most, because it's worth a lot of money these days, and I would love to buy a new copy, but it's just so unbelievably expensive. So I don't know if I'll ever have a new copy of Warhammer Quest. And yeah, all the Dark Eye ones. Castle of... I don't even know what the English names for that would be. Burg des Schreckens, Tal des Grauens, Battle of the Dinosaurs. Yeah, I had all of that stuff. Well, we did sort of collectively. And then, when I was about 8 or 9, a friend of my mum's who was always in a reenactment club. I grew up in a reenactment club, and in the 80s, reenactment in Germany was kind of just German people sitting around drinking beer, dressed as cowboys with Union and Confederate flags on the wall, and it was just kind of a sort of a subculture thing, I suppose. But then it really turned into more, and it became an 18th century American colonial and American War of Independence era reenactment club, because of course, I said it before, growing up in Hessen obviously has a bit of a story, attached in that, because the Hessian mercenaries who fought for the British in the American War of Independence. So I grew up in that surrounding, and that always made me interested in military stuff. I always had little toy soldiers. I never played any games with them. I just played with them. I don't remember. I must have been even younger than that when I still sort of collected these. Obviously, mostly Revell, being in Germany, because they were what you could buy at the shops, and little tank and plane kits. I did a few of them as well from Revell. Yeah, but that never really was a wargaming thing, because historical wargaming in Germany is a very new thing. As far as I can remember, it has pretty much always been at least 95 to 99% fantasy and science fiction. Obviously, with the post-war history of Germany and the culture of how everything is, people here kind of are opposed to war quite a bit. There's even an entire political party who hates playing at war. So anything that is playing at war in their minds is damaging for the youths. So wargaming would fall under that, and also paintball and airsoft and things like this. It's yes. So there's definitely an opposition to that, and especially if you bring it to the historical field, that's when people are just like, no, that's not for me. Or at least that's how it was for a very long time. Yeah, especially of course World War II. No surprise there. But yeah, I bought to get back to it. When I was 8 or 9, I asked for Christmas from like all of my relatives to chip in and get me the starter box for 4th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battles. That was the box with the Goblin Spearmen, Night Goblin Archers, High Elf Spearmen and High Elf Archers, and a few cardboard cutouts. I'm pretty sure one of them was a High Elf Prince on a hippogriff, and then there may also have been a cardboard cutout of Grom the Paunch, but I'm not entirely sure. It's been a long time, and sadly I don't have any of that stuff anymore. I had a big purge in terms of Games Workshop. Yeah, and that just kept on going. I've always loved Warhammer Fantasy Battles more than Warhammer 40,000, but I did play Warhammer 40,000 because the area I live in is 40k land. That's just how it is. I would say out of all the people here that play war games, probably 85% or more are entirely Warhammer 40,000 and nothing else. So it's really hard to find people to play anything else. Even just a fantasy game is kind of difficult. You have to ask around and really try to get people into it. But yeah, So I played a bit of 40k, but I was never really a big fan. Always more of a fantasy guy. And I also worked for Games Workshop. This was around, it must have been 16 or 17, so early 2000s. It was definitely after the Lord of the Rings game was released, and I worked there for about a year, a little bit less, a little bit more. I was not great. I was not a great teenager in general, and school was not for me. So I dropped out pretty early. Didn't finish high school, and then I got a job at Games Workshop. Practically because I hung out there so much and they knew me. And I also did night school at the same time to get my high school degree. And that went pretty well. I was a lot more suited to doing night school, amongst adults, working at your own speed, not having all the homework stuff and just being expected to do things by yourself. I always felt more comfortable working that way. I'm not very good at just regimented workload and work plans and such. So I worked there for a year. Then the part-time slot was cancelled for Games Workshop stores, and I would have the store manager said I could switch to a full-time if I wanted to, but at that time that would have interfered with the night school, so I decided not to do it. And in hindsight, I kind of wish I had stayed at Games Workshop. I think that would have been a much better career path for me. Like I think if all would have worked out a bit better for me. Also, it's really boiling in here, so I apologize for the perspiration. Around that time as well, when I was working at Games Workshop, that's when Flames of War made its appearance in Germany, so mid-2000s. And Flames of War was probably the first historical war game that really had some traction here. Which at the time, to me, was absolutely surprising, because it's a World War II game. But yeah, it had its fans pretty much everywhere you went. And I think it is kind of thanks to Flames of War that historical wargaming is even a thing here. Because now it has expanded. There is bold action, and the other Warlord games, you can also find people who play those, and there's just generally also collectors of historical figures now who then play whatever game they want. Saga was also a very big contributor. And of course also these smaller games, all the packaged games like Mortal Gods and Test of Honor, things like that. Because in general, I think German wargamers do like a complete product. They like to go to a company and buy the rules, buy the figures, buy everything they need, and just a nice contained package. I think the just picking and choosing figures and then figuring out whatever rules you want to use for them, it's not too common here. Some people do that, but majority just likes picking things off the shelf and just having it ready. And at the same time of the Flames of War boom, I also got into War Machine. I loved War Machine in the beginning. I thought it was an amazing game, loved the figures, loved the philosophy behind it, and I think I'm kind of proud of that. I kind of made that game work in the area. I think I got a lot of people into that. And that's basically all I played for 10 years. Also Flames of War. But yeah, those two games were very dominant here till, let's say, around about 2013, around that time, when sort of Mark II War Machine kind of got to its end, and it became apparent that the game was so competitive, and I just grew out of it because I didn't want to constantly play with a chess clock. I find that stressful, and that's not what I want. I want to chill out when I play war games. I want to just sit down, have a beer, put figures on the table, have the table look great, and just, have a battle. That's what I want. Yeah, so that's pretty much how I got into it. Since I was always interested in historical figures, I kind of just fell into that at some point. And then there also came a point in, I would say, like 3 years ago for me, where I suddenly decided that, you know what, I'm sick of playing what everybody else plays. I just want to collect figures that I love, and if I have to collect both sides to get games, then that's fine. And I'll collect for years before I even get a game. For example, I collected my Carthaginians probably for a year before I even got a game with them. Yeah, but I prefer it that way. I prefer just collecting the figures I like, because honestly, I don't like the new Games Workshop stuff that much. I have some for Age of Sigmar, but I'm not excited about it. It's just not that the figures are very commercial, and I don't know, it's hard to describe. They're just very, very bland. I find them. They're very, they have great poses, and they're so well designed, but I just don't feel like they have a soul. I look at mid 80s and 90s figures, and I think they're just better. Maybe that makes me an old man with his nostalgia goggles, but that's just how I feel about it. All right, then on to second question, which is, what was the second question again? Was it how I got started with the channel? No, it's what do I want my channel to be in 5 years? Well, I've only done this for about half a year now. I only started somewhere around Christmas, I want to say, or in the new year. And I don't really think I want my channel to go anywhere, really. I like what I'm doing. I don't want to put in too much effort into the videos. I think a more interesting question for me would actually to be why it took me so long to even make a channel, because I've been watching the community's videos probably for 2 or 3 years. I would say late 2017 or so is when I started watching the videos, and only made a channel this year. And it's simply because I used to do YouTube as a job, and I hate editing videos now. I really hate it. Just sitting down and creating a video is a massive chore, and it's just something I can't be bothered with. And so that prospect just kept me from it. Making videos again, But I realized I could just turn on the camera, point it at the desk, because that's what a lot of people do, and just talk for like 10 minutes, and then hit the button and just throw it up, and good enough. I know that's lazy, but I don't want to be not lazy anymore with videos. Honestly, it's just, yeah. So yeah, that's the reason it took me so long. And again, I don't really think I want to go places really. There's one project, one sort of thing I want to do. I was at a reenactment thing last year, and I took a bunch of video, and I want to compile that into a video and put that on the channel, so people can have a look, because I thought it was pretty fun. They had a little battle. It's good. So that's something I might do at some point. But other than that, I'm just gonna keep logging the stuff I paint and putting up videos of it. That's what you're gonna get here. And then last question: what is my advice to get into it? Anything YouTube related in general, do it for fun. Do it because it's something that you enjoy. And only do it for that reason. Never ever go into YouTube in anything trying to turn that into a job, a career, something that's going to pay the bills, because it is not going to pay the bills. I did YouTube very seriously for close to 3 years, and the most I ever made in a month, and very seriously meaning I worked 10 hours a day putting out videos, 7 days a week, no breaks, no vacations, at least in the first year and a half or so. After that I got a bit I got more clarity on what this wasn't going to turn into that I wasn't going to be massively successful on YouTube. So I kind of pulled that back a little bit. But yeah, for the first year and a half, I did that, and it was horrible. And the most I ever made was like $250 in a month. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it at all. If you're not a channel with 300,000 subscribers, you put out a video every day, and you get I'd say 2 or 3 million views a month, it's not going to pay for anything. I mean, that's also why all the battle report channels and such, they have Patreons and all this, because that's how they make their money. They don't make their money on YouTube. It's just not... It's not made for people to make money anymore. Maybe it was at some point, but not really anymore. All right, that's all I wanted to talk about. And oh my god, I'm getting destroyed by this horrific weather we have in Germany. So apologies for the sweating. The lamps are getting to me. Yeah, I hope you liked it. This little insight into how I got into things. And I'm really looking forward to the videos from the channels I called out, namely Brush&Quill, HelcorX26, and Basement 1908! Exclamation mark. I actually still remember them. Yes. Alright, thanks for watching. There'll be another video today, I think, because look what arrived! I finally have these bases for my Oathmark stuff. Yay. Alright, take care, guys. Have a nice day.